I never thought a simple flight could turn into a public battleground. One moment my dad was quietly reading in his first-class seat, and the next, a furious woman was standing over him screaming that he had stolen her place. By the time it was over, the entire cabin had witnessed her collapse into humiliation, and I had learned just how far entitlement can drag someone before it breaks them. It started so calmly, almost peacefully. We were flying out that evening, me and my dad. He's in his 60s, the kind of man who carries himself with quiet dignity. He'd worked hard his whole life, and this was one of those rare times where he let himself enjoy comfort, sitting in seat 12A of first class. Salt and pepper hair combed neatly, navy trousers, white shirt, leather-bound book in hand, he looked every bit the gentleman he is. I sat across the aisle, already settled, just glancing over now and then, watching him smile faintly at a line in his book. Everything was serene. And then came the voice, sharp, shrill, slicing through the calm like a knife. "Excuse me, this is my seat." Heads turned instantly. My dad looked up slowly, calm, polite, and said with a steady voice, "I'm afraid this is 12A. My ticket." He gestured toward the boarding pass resting on the armrest. The woman standing over him. Rachel, I'd later learn, was in her early 30s, heavy-set curly black hair bouncing as she leaned in aggressively. She looked furious, towering over the seat with clenched fists and blazing eyes. "No, you're mistaken," she snapped. "I booked this seat and I'm not moving." Her voice carried across the cabin, high-pitched and demanding. The whole cabin shifted. Passengers peeked over their screens. People whispered. My pulse quickened, but Dad remained still, barely lifting his eyes from his book. I leaned forward, my voice low but firm. "Rachel, please. My dad's not moving. The attendants will handle this." She whipped her head toward me, scoffing. "And who are you? Some kid trying to boss me around? I don't take orders from children." Her words were venom loud enough for everyone to hear. I felt heat crawl up my neck, embarrassment mixing with anger. The attendant stepped forward, trying to keep it calm. "Ma'am, may we see your boarding pass?" Rachel waved it dramatically, her movements theatrical, exaggerated, as if the flimsy piece of paper was a royal decree. "This is my seat. I paid for this seat. I will not move." Dad just sat there, posture relaxed, a faint smirk forming. He had this unshakable aura, the kind that comes from decades of patience. The more she raged, the calmer he seemed, and that calmness only infuriated her more. I whispered to him, "This is insane. She can't be serious." He gave a subtle nod, a half smile. "Let her dig her own hole." And she did. She slammed her hand on the armrest, making the leather squeak. "I don't care what the crew says," she shouted, her voice cracking as veins pulsed in her neck. "I demand first class. I paid for luxury, and I'm not being shoved into economy like some nobody." The cabin grew heavier, the hum of the engines drowned out by her voice. Phones appeared discreetly, passengers filming, their eyes flicking between her and my dad. She didn't notice entitlement had blinded her. She jabbed her finger toward him, accusing, angry, trembling. "You will regret this. I will make sure of it." My chest tightened. For a second I doubted myself. Maybe I should just convince Dad to switch. Maybe it wasn't worth it. Not worth the shouting, the spectacle. People were watching. What if we looked bad too? What if this escalated? The thought gnawed at me. Was I wrong for stepping in, for protecting him? Maybe keeping peace meant surrendering. But then I saw Dad's face, calm, unbothered, and something clicked. He wasn't humiliated. He wasn't rattled. He was letting her burn herself out. And I realized surrender wouldn't solve anything. People like Rachel feed on concession. Give her this seat and she'd take more tomorrow. No, this wasn't about comfort anymore. This was about standing up. I reached into my pocket, pretending to fiddle with my phone, but I quietly opened a live stream. Not to provoke her, but to document her. If reason couldn't reach her, maybe the pressure of witnesses could. Rachel stormed back toward the attendants. "Call the captain. I want the captain involved right now." Her words cracked like a whip. The attendant remained patient, steady. "Ma'am, your ticket is for 12C. This gentleman is seated correctly in 12A. Please take your assigned seat." Rachel froze for a fraction of a second, just long enough for me to see it. A crack in the armor. But she recovered quickly, screaming louder. "That's impossible. I paid extra. You're discriminating against me." Laughter rippled from the back rows, not loud but enough. Her eyes darted. For the first time she noticed the phones pointed at her. The whispers, the smirks, the judgment. Her voice wavered as she snapped at me again. "What are you doing? Are you laughing at me?" I shook my head, calm but firm. Not laughing, just observing. "You're making a scene, Rachel. Everyone's watching. You might want to think about what comes next." She faltered. For the first time, she actually faltered. Then the captain's voice came over the intercom. "Attention passengers, there is a minor seating issue being handled in first class. Please remain calm and seated." The words were polite, but the authority behind them was crushing. This wasn't just a fight with a passenger anymore. This was official. Rachel stiffened, chest-heaving, fists trembling on her sides. She tried to puff up again, force power into her stance, but the weight of all those eyes, all those cameras pinned her down. Pride had fueled her, but public exposure was draining her dry. "Fine," she muttered finally, her voice cracking. "I'll stay, for now." She collapsed into 12C, her rightful seat, her face flushed red, hands shaking as she smoothed her shirt and adjusted her hair, desperate to salvage dignity. But it was too late. The cabin knew. She had lost. The tension deflated slowly like air hissing out of a balloon. Passengers whispered, some chuckling, some still recording. My dad adjusted his reading lamp, turned a page in his book, utterly unfazed. And me. I sat there staring at Rachel's hunched shoulders, realizing I had just watched entitlement unravel itself. She'd demanded dominance, screamed for respect, and ended up a spectacle recorded, ridiculed, remembered. She avoided every eye for the rest of the flight, lips pressed into a thin line, body rigid. But I could see it in her face, the humiliation, the silent acknowledgement that she'd been exposed. And as I sat there beside my dad, I knew this wasn't just a story about a seat on a plane. It was about pride unchecked and how quickly it can destroy itself when the world is watching. Pride always has a cost.